the first episode, I do want to go over and we'll discuss the Anti-Snydercut fans. And for you new people that are just finding out about it with HBO Max, if you come across the channel, I will hopefully I'll be able to drop some links to other discussion panels without any type of personal commentary towards it, just so you could get a kind of abreast of the conversation about the Snyder Cut, the ideas that people are having. So when you come over here and have the conversation with me, which I hope is a lot more inviting and I hope it's a lot more conversational and less antagonistic, because you're going to find pocket dimensions of that all throughout the internet and social media, of course, as in with any type of fandom and fan community. But most importantly, what you're going to hear when you come here, I want it to be more discussion based. I prefer it to be less insult based, but I don't really give a shit about that. I think too many people get their panties in a bunch over the insults. But I will say this: if you have more insults than critique, then please don't do it, because then you're just here to be a troll, and that's a little bit that's energy wasted. That's if you ask me, that's a whole lot of energy wasted. I think that we could utilize our energy towards something a lot more productive than hating on a movie. I think that's a little weird. I take it a step further. I think that's a lot weird. But you're gonna get that. But the argument for all those, for the most part, and if you're an anti-Snydercut fan, please let me know if I'm wrong. I'll We could address this on any. I mean, we got a year to go, so at any, give me all your talking points, all source materials, and I have no problem addressing it. If you want me to do it in more debate format and bulletin points, I'd love to do it for any anti-Snydercut fans, because I'm very malleable, very small channel, but it's a channel nonetheless where I love to just discuss what I like. And if you want to pick my brain on what I thought about the film, as we go on, you're going to get it. This is just going to be picking my brain all day long about it. But even more than that, I want you to get a understanding of Snyder Cut fans from its very inception. And it's always been a hard thing for me to address, because my channel, I really have no interest in. Even on the beginning of YouTube videos, I used to love reaction channels, but then YouTubers started to become some of the most sensitive people that weren't as sensitive to begin with. In other words, to do a reaction video, you would have to, like, someone makes a video, I'll respond to it, and I might even cut up parts of your video so I can address it directly, so it's easy. I love those, to be quite honest, better than actual debates, because some people, when you're on the mic in front of a lot of people, you could tell they don't feel comfortable, and then sometimes people will bring them into hostile environments, so it's hard to get your thoughts together, because now you end up putting yourself in a defense mode, and it's more like you're defending yourself personally as opposed to defending your points, and it can go off the rails. I've seen uh 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 I'm actually still in the process of listening to that. It actually made me stop, because I was like, I wanted to start today. I was supposed to start recording for Road to the Snyder Cut, and I was like, you know, I want to get this on now because I got a lot of things to do today. So I stopped. This a long back and forth. Uh, Maybe one of those guys I don't too care for. The other, I mean, in terms of their commentary, I've heard them talk before about stuff. Not exactly a fan of it. That's not an insult to anyone, but unfortunately, not too caring for certain content can be, like I said, it's becoming very sensitive. And the other two guys, and I'm glad someone even in the comments section said, even for one of the guys I don't too care for his content, was like, yo, brother, you need to watch that other guy, because I started noticing it. It felt like people were taking their personal arguments with other people, jumping on, latching on to other people that may not like another person, and they're trying to create this, you know, what Cardi B would say, this super op, and it looks corny. And it kind of diluted the actual conversation. I mean, they literally started reading off super chats with that, with insults to the guy that they invited to, was supposed to be their platform, which all intents and purposes, I respect the person willing to come on any platform like I would, but it just seemed unproductive. And even the guy that was there, 3-on-1, you could kind of tell. I think he would have did better with getting his point off had it not been three people going back and forth off an issue that was supposed to be mainly involving two. I don't mind moderators and intermediate people. I do want to host debates, host it, not even be part of the debate, because I think there are better ways to handle debates. But that's another kind of topic for another day. We'll talk about my position on that. But it just wasn't the most pristine way of doing it, because you could kind of tell that the gentleman that they had, he couldn't really even get his thoughts together, because it barely was an ambush. It was two other people coming at him while he's trying to deal with one person, which that was the main reason why he was there. And then, I got issues with you, I got issues with, then you could have unmiked, took your screen off, let them get theirs out. Or if you wanted to be a moderator, moderate it. But you wasn't supposed to interject, because it's like, if the referee is siding with one side, then it's not much of a referee. So if you're going to be a true ref, then you come in and you clarify on both ends. Like, wait, I see what he said. You have to really have a clear and unbiased mind. And the two guys there clearly weren't there. And I think one of those guys were actually, because he sounds and comes off like one of the guys that was actually one of the YouTubers that was brought over to, I think that was him. One of the YouTubers that was brought over, I think they were overseas to be on set for the making of Justice League. Not the whole movie, obviously, but they flew him over to sit down and talk to him. And that was one of my arguments from before. That would the reason what would make a multi-million-dollar film take YouTubers, fly YouTubers over to the set, because they knew that the YouTubers were the ground zero of the anti-Snydercut and Snyderverse fandom. Now here goes my thing. For anti-Snydercut fans. Matter of fact, I'll even get to that afterwards. I want to kind of explain where the anti-Snydercut fans come from, for those coming to my channel. And even if you're anti-Snydercut fans, please jump in at any given time and correct me where it is. But they felt, and I'm going from the very beginning, so some people have been moving the goalposts over the years. But excuse me. But the initial reaction was that they did not like with Snyder. One, they didn't like Man of Steel. They felt there was no hope in this universe, and they felt like it was too dark, not enough of the classic Christopher Reeves style and ideals. They felt that the approach that they took with it was completely and utterly wrong and anti to the character. They felt that Superman's father, Clark's father, or Superman's father still, Clark, the one that raised him, may not be his biological father. They felt that he did him a big disservice, and they leaned heavily on one scene that Kevin Costner had said was when they asked, and even in this video, which was bothering me, was that when he asked, people say that they felt that Jonathan Kent said that he should let people die. If I tell you, me telling you let people die is a very specific statement. The statement that was quoted in the film was that when he said was that should I have let them die, because he was arguing over him exposing himself, but he had to expose himself to save them on the bus. And Man of Steel saved these kids on the bus because the bus had flipped over a bridge and went to the water. And a parent came over, and clearly it wasn't the first time, and it was a flashback. They said something about your son, yada yada yada, and the whole time Jonathan Kent and Martha Kent was talking to that parent. They was like, they seen what your son could do, and they was going the way of he's a miracle, and they was about to put this boy on deity pedestal. Like they were prepared to worship him. You know what I mean? Jonathan Kent seen his son outside and he stepped out and he was like, yo. And then they had the conversation about it, about it. And it was all about, yo, you exposed yourself. You wasn't supposed to do that. And the son was like, so I was supposed to let them die? And the father said, maybe. I don't know. In one debate I see them talking about, and everybody talks about it, they keep forgetting the part where he said, I don't know. He's a father. Your first priority as a father is to protect your child. As a father, he did not know how to. The world couldn't handle him, especially at a young age. Mind you, he's a young kid. He didn't even go through puberty. He didn't grow facial hair yet. He wasn't ready to let the world know who he was. But there was no real answer for it. Because when things happen and I could save people, what do I do? And that was the hard conversation for a father to have with his son. And that's when you know that it's not that simple. Just like the real world. It's not that simple. It's not like Power Rangers where you're chucking people into buildings and several people have to die. But we don't focus on it because of the style, the way the film is, the way the show series is. The way this film was dealing with it was real world stakes. But people felt that Jonathan Kent saying that was him saying, maybe, I don't know, was the same as you should have let them die. Those are two different statements. Coming at it from two different perspectives. One is coming at it from a space of uncertainty. Starting from, my son, you shouldn't expose yourself. They can't know who you are. But in a situation like that, maybe, I don't know. And he went with maybe first. Why would you go with maybe first? Because that's your son first. Before he's anything to anyone else, he's your son first. That was the point. That was the point. Now, other people don't like Man of Steel because they felt like he should have taken the fight to space. Everybody knows how he should have fought as Superman, keeping in mind this was his first day on the job. They said he saved no one, but he did save people. Maybe he didn't save enough people for your liking, I don't know. But they say he didn't save anyone. Some people even felt that he never smiled. Hey, this is the argument that's coming from that side, not mine. You have other people that felt that BVS was stupid, if you will, because they felt that now the theatrical cut left a lot of plot holes. They felt like the whole bullet situation and what happened on in Africa, the whole setup, they felt like it was kind of unnecessary. I would argue yes and no, because they serve certain functions. That story serves certain functions to keep the narrative going. Otherwise, you might have muddled certain things. Because with Superman in the real world setting, it's kind of hard to deal with him because he's the every superhero. He got like damn near all powers. So how do you create a universe, a real world universe where other superheroes are there? Sometimes you're gonna have to remove Superman so these other superheroes could thrive. Otherwise, it'll be like, what's the point in all these other ones when you have the uber superhero? And I always thought that that's where putting Metropolis so close to Gotham kind of hurt you a little bit down the line when it comes to storytelling. But it made sense because, but you could get away with it because remember, Superman didn't have his quote unquote coming out party until, when was it? Till like he was in his like 33. Batman was already into his 40s. So before Superman was even around, he had adventures. Because now in this case scenario, you could argue that the original Robin and Superman are about the same age. Now, Nightwing would make, because what would have been the point for Batman to be running around across the bay with younger proteges if Superman lived right across the bay? Then it would have been like, why is Superman overlooking Gotham? Because Superman wasn't Superman yet. He was still in Kansas walking around being very nomadic. So it would make sense why Batman could have. I mean, like I said, you gotta really pay attention to the positioning. Batman being older in this incarnation was genius because we already had 3 Batman movies prior, 4 prior to that other franchise, 2 with Joel Schumacher, 2 with Tim Burton that was part of the same universe. But even with that, it had to. We've already had so much Batman, we could tell an older Batman story now. But then that wasn't enough for people because people got mad that he was older. Not the biggest argument people had, but people, there's a little bit with that. I won't say as much, so you know what I mean. Like that's not the biggest thing that anti-Snydercut issues have. I would more argue you would have to have that issue, maybe not directly with it, but that would be part of the issue because they was mad that they even told his origin over again, which it really wasn't his origin per se. They went over it in a dreamlike sequence, like he was having nightmares about his parents dying, and that was another big issue that people had. For some reason, that's a montage under 5 minutes that was a dream about what made him Batman annoyed people. Then they didn't like Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. They didn't like his depiction of it, which I could understand, but I also understood the choice for it. Because guess what Lex Luthor is? He's just like all of these other YouTubers. An adult, but a young adult, if you will, in this generation, like the millennials. He thinks he's smarter than everyone else. He thinks he's better than everyone else, to the point where he'll get. It's like he's treating the world as if it's one big chess match to manipulate his own ego because he feels like he can outwit the world. And that's the kind of arrogance that a lot of us YouTubers have online. Watch any of your favorite YouTubers, they come up with this certain level of arrogance that we know better than anybody else that seems to like the movies or like what we don't like. We're way more educated, we're way more, polished in our positions, if you will. And I think that's a very arrogant way of approaching storytelling. I think there's a big level of arrogance in that is unneeded. But that's just me. That's just me. I'm not saying that's everyone else, but I do see the arrogant level in it, and I thought that was a smart pivot because what he meant Jesse Eisenberg, he was supposed to read for excuse me, the dude at the paper. I forgot his name because he ended up making him a CIA agent. Oh man, Jimmy Olsen. He was supposed to read for Jimmy Olsen, and he said he liked the way he did it so much. He said maybe this is the type of Lex Luthor. This is how Lex Luthor would be. And Lex Luthor had orange hair from the beginning, but people felt like we didn't have a bald Lex Luthor from the very beginning. They wanted this less evolved version of him, and he was using BVS to kind of tell the origin of Lex Luthor. Unfortunately, people didn't like that direction. People felt that a big argument was Batman was a murderer, quote unquote, a murderer, quote unquote. Not the people that was trying to shoot him. Batman was a murderer. Interesting choice of words, but again, that's what people are saying. This is where the anti-Snydercut people are coming from. They felt like because people died and Batman did kill people that he was a murderer, and I don't agree with that sentiment. But if you've ever seen any of the Tim Burton Batman and never had an issue, I don't see why you'd have an issue with this as adult men. I don't know. These are just choices that was made, and even in the comic book that we were working from. Let me not say we, but they were working from. Batman was at a point where he didn't care if people died in the middle of him fighting crime. If a criminal died in the middle of it, fuck it. That was the story he was trying to tell. But this is where the anti-Snydercut people felt like they hated all of that, and they didn't like Suicide Squad, which is kind of underneath his shepherdship, if you will, which we know today's been cut up, released the air cut. And they didn't like anything from that except for Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman, which people somehow neglect to realize he had more of a fingerprint in that film than people even know. But like I said, a lot of people, they feel like Patty Jenkins is perfection, and they feel like she should take on the whole universe. And that's okay if that's what you feel. I strongly disagree. I don't think she's only had one movie that any of you guys know of outside of Monster. Monster was like in the 2000s. Well, we're in the 2000s now, so excuse me, but it was well over 10 years ago. And so for me, I don't think that's enough of a sample size to say that she should just run with the whole universe. We shall see in Wonder Woman 84, though, which I look forward to. I have this weird feeling, though, that it might be a step down from the first movie. I think I'll still like it, but I have a feeling it's gonna be a step down because of this lightheartedness that they're trying to go for. I think it's gonna, especially at this day and age, the longer that they keep on waiting out, now that the MCU is kind of going through this transition with their phase, and plus we're all under quarantine. I think it's if Wonder Woman would have came out when it was scheduled to, I think it would have been liked more. I think as you see now, the tides are changing. People want that darker universe, quote unquote. But if you ask me now that Endgame has already arrived and everything, people are looking for more than that now. A different approach to it. And I think DC was just ahead of their time because we're seeing that now. But that being said, that's just how the anti-Snyder Cut fans approach the Snyder Cut universe, and he feel like he failed on all parts from book before, so why give him an opportunity to try to do something else with the franchise when he could only ruin it and take it down an even worse path? That's their position, not mine. But hey, we all shall see. We all shall see.